You think people are going to say no, but what if people actually told you yes when you ask? We want to tell ourselves no automatically because we're afraid of rejection. That is the underlying fear. You're afraid that you're going to be imposing, you're going to be annoying, but what if those are all just stories that you've created that don't have a basis in reality? Welcome to another episode of the Psychology and Manifestation podcast with your host, Sudane Firestar. I am so happy you are here. Oh my gosh, this is episode 19 of the podcast, which means we're one episode away from 20 episodes. That is insane to me. I can't believe it. This is incredible. So, in today's podcast episode, I'm talking to you about asking, okay? Asking for the things that you want or you need. And a great book that embodies this concept is Ask and It Is Given. It was written by Esther and Jerry Hicks on behalf of Abraham Hicks. And so go check that book out if you haven't read it yet. But basically, I got this idea from a conversation or multiple conversations with my business coach who was talking about how in 2026, she is aiming for a bunch of no's. She's going to be asking for things that she wants and she needs and she desires, especially when it comes to her business and things that she wants to manifest in her business because she wants to create incredible experiences for her clients. So that means that she's going to be putting herself out there and asking. And she was saying that people oftentimes say yes. So you think people are going to say no, but what if people actually told you yes when you ask? Oftentimes we will be in this position where we want to tell ourselves no automatically because we're afraid of rejection. Like that is the underlying fear. You're afraid that when you ask, someone's going to say no, you're going to inconvenience someone, you're going to be imposing, you're going to be annoying. But what if those are all just stories that you've created in your mind that don't have a basis in reality? What if there was a positive outcome? Or what if that person just, instead of just automatically saying no, proposed an alternative option that would also be pretty amazing for you, an incredible win, an incredible outcome? So, that's what this podcast episode is about today. So, what's the problem with hearing no? Human beings, when we hear no, we automatically tend to feel rejected. Human beings feel rejected. We feel all of these negative emotions that can arise when someone says no, like embarrassment, guilt, shame, sadness. But we don't need to feel any of those negative emotions because it's just unnecessary. It doesn't need to be a part of the equation, it doesn't need to be a part of the story. And a great example of me this past week just being like, what if I just asked the question was related to like, I have a lot of upcoming payments that are due for various things, things that I've scheduled that I want to have done, or just, reoccurring bills that occur every year. I have a lot of things that tend to be due in February. So, one of the major costs that were coming up for me is for camp, for summer camp for my daughters. She has traditionally been in daycare for the past couple of years, but her daycare is now going to be offering summer camp as an option. And the first year that she was there for the summertime, there was no deposit that was due in advance. But then the second year that she was there, they decided that they were going to institute a policy, I guess, just to ensure that they would have a certain number of children there enrolled with them during the summer. And so that they were at full capacity, they decided that they were going to institute a policy where parents had to provide them with a deposit by March 1st for July and August. And so fast forward to this year, I am realizing that they have created a different policy where they've upped their deadline to February 1st. And I am so accustomed to paying for the summer care through my tax return and my tax refund. So that's what I had in mind. That's what I had planned. And so I'm thinking about the cost of, her summer camp, and then I'm thinking about the cost of other big things that are coming through in February. And I'm like feeling all of this tension, like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to make this happen? And I was feeling really uncomfortable and kind of just like, it is what it is. But then I thought to myself, what if it didn't have to be this way? What if I could switch things up? What if I could just ask to have the deadline that I had last year of March 1st and explain I use my tax return, I use my tax refund for this. So can I have this extension? And so I put that question out there, and the answer was, yeah, sure, not a problem. Right? Imagine if I had not asked that question and I created this unnecessary tension and challenge and struggle for myself. Like, why? There is no reason to do that. It is completely unnecessary. So, when we automatically say no to ourselves, we are automatically creating a situation that is unnecessarily uncomfortable, or we're already taking ourselves out of the game. You're taking yourself out of the game automatically when you tell yourself no and you don't give other people the opportunity to say no or even yes to you, because you could be getting a ton of yeses. You could be getting a ton of opportunities if you decided to take that risk, take that chance. And the chances are that they're going to say yes. And even if that person doesn't give you the yes to exactly what it is that you want, they might be willing to negotiate with you, or maybe they have an idea or an offer that's even better than you could have ever imagined. Or if they just straight up say no, there's still a win, because you can go out of this feeling neutral, or you can leave the situation feeling really proud of yourself for having spoken up for yourself. I think of that all the time because, as you know from listening to the earlier episodes, I used to be a people pleaser. I would consider myself a recovering people pleaser and perfectionist. And so in the past, it was really hard for me. And even now, I still have to work on it. It can still be hard for me to ask for the things that I desire to have or the things that I want or need. But it's a practice and I work on it every day. But in the past, I used to automatically think, oh, I don't want to do that. I'm going to annoy someone. But I was really setting myself up for failure, honestly, and to not have access to the things that I truly wanted to manifest. So in 2026, we are not doing that. We are not telling ourselves no. You are telling yourself yes in 2026. You are putting yourself out there and seeing how many no's you can get, because chances are that you're going to get a ton more yeses than you could have ever imagined or possible for you. So if you need help with your mindset, I would encourage you to go back to episode 13 of the podcast, where I mentioned the ABC model from cognitive behavioral therapy, which is really going to help you with cognitive reframing and changing your mind, because this all goes back to changing your mind, because we can tend to create these stories in our minds that create certain sensations and feelings in our body and make us feel sad or uncomfortable, ashamed. And it's a lot of it comes from our thoughts. The thoughts that we're thinking affect how we feel. It may not even be that something has occurred in our reality to make us feel this way. It can all just be happening in our minds. As I've said before, our minds can play tricks on us. Okay. So go back to that episode. It's going to prepare you to ask more for the things that you want or need in 2026. So that's what I have for you today. This is a kind of a quickie podcast episode. So let's do a recap. So the first thing is, go and read Ask and It Is Given, because you have to put the question out there. You have to ask the universe for the things that you desire to occur. And you also have to put your manifestations into like action, into real practice, where you're doing practical things to call in the things that you desire to have in your life. And that starts with being able to ask for what you want and need to real people, real companies out here in the world. Because you may be talking yourself out of incredible opportunities by deciding that, oh, I'm not a good fit for that job, so I'm not going to apply. Or, my partner is not going to want to do that, so I'm not going to ask. They're probably not available. They're too busy. Or, yeah, maybe they don't have that company. They don't have the funds to give me a raise or to give me a promotion or bonus. Like, don't talk yourself out of these opportunities, because maybe your partner would be flexible. Maybe that company does have the funds and they appreciate you so much and they don't want to lose you and they're willing to give you that raise, willing to give you that bonus. Maybe that job interviewer is going to think you're the most amazing person in the entire world. Like, you're just what we were looking for. I'm so glad you showed up in our office today or on this Zoom call, whatever it is, to put yourself forward for this job opportunity. So don't tell yourself no, because you could be automatically taking yourself out of the game. Life is a game, and you need to know how to play it, and you need to know how to win and get all the things that you want to win at and call into your life in 2026. You are here to live an incredible life. You are here to live a rich, fulfilling, free, beautiful, full life in 2026, babe. And there's no need to create these stories in your mind that hold you back or that make you feel bad. That is not necessary. It does not need to be a part of the equation. And consider being neutral or even proud of yourself for having the courage to speak up for yourself. You're going to be so proud of yourself and be like, dang, like, I'm so glad I tried. I'm so glad I put myself out there. And even if someone tells you no the first time, it doesn't mean that you're going to always hear no. So even if you hear no once, don't automatically decide that you're not going to try again. Try again, try again, try again. And don't settle. Don't settle. You deserve so much more in life. Oh my goodness. You may hear my toddler who's woken up calling out in the background. So I gotta go soon. I gotta wrap this up. So for your homework, I want you to think about something that you've been hesitant to ask for, something that you want or you need. And it could be something small. You can start small and work your way up to asking for that thing that you desire to call into your life. And I'm going to challenge you this upcoming week to ask for it. And then I want you to report back. I want you to send me a DM on Instagram. I'm at Sudane Firestar, or I've been sending out email blasts for my podcast, and you can send an email. You can send an email to me letting me know what the outcome was. I want to hear about your wins. You know, I want to hear all about it. I want to be celebrating with you. And so if you haven't yet, follow and subscribe to the podcast. Like it on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. And take a photograph or a video of yourself listening to the podcast and post it to your IG stories, to your Instagram stories, and tag me. All right, like I said, my boss is calling. My lovely little toddler is calling, so I gotta go. But until next time, love you. Bye.